The coffee cup shattered against the marble floor, sending dark liquid spraying across expensive Italian leather shoes. In that moment, Lisa Martinez knew her life was about to change forever. She just didn't know if she'd survive it. 3 hours earlier, Lisa had been wiping down tables at Salvatore's, the upscale restaurant where she'd worked double shifts for the past 2 years. Her feet ached in her worn sneakers, and her lower back screamed with every bend and stretch. But she couldn't afford to slow down. Her daughter Emma's medical bills weren't going to pay themselves, and the stack of pink-tinged envelopes on her kitchen counter grew taller every week. At 28, Lisa had already learned that life didn't care about fairness. It only cared about survival. The lunch rush had finally died down when they walked in. You could always tell when someone important entered Salvatore's. The air itself seemed to change, growing heavier, more electric. The hostess straightened her posture. The busboys moved faster. Even Antonio, the head chef who feared nothing and no one, glanced through the kitchen window with something that looked almost like respect or maybe fear. Vincent Caruso commanded attention without asking for it. Tall, imposing, with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes that could cut through steel, he moved through the restaurant like a king surveying his kingdom, which in a way he was. Everyone in Brooklyn knew the Caruso name. Some whispered it with admiration, others with terror, but everyone knew it. Lisa had served him before, always keeping her eyes down, her words minimal. She'd learned long ago that invisible was safest. Deliver the food, refill the drinks, collect the tip, disappear. That was the formula for survival when powerful men dined at your tables. But today, invisible wasn't an option. Vincent sat in his usual corner booth with 3 men in expensive suits, their voices low and serious. Lisa approached with practiced efficiency, took their orders, and was turning to leave when she heard it. Vincent was running numbers aloud, calculating percentages for what sounded like a business deal. Her mathematical mind, the one that had earned her a full scholarship to NYU before her father's death had forced her to drop out, caught the error immediately. She froze mid-step. Every instinct screamed at her to keep walking. Mind your business, Lisa. These aren't people you correct. These aren't people you question. But she'd always had a problem with wrong numbers. They bothered her like a song played off key, like a painting hung crooked. And before her better judgment could stop her, she turned around. "Excuse me, Mr. Caruso?" Her voice came out smaller than intended. The table fell silent. 4 pairs of eyes turned toward her, and she felt her courage evaporating like steam off hot coffee. Vincent's gaze was particularly intense, his expression unreadable. "The calculation you just mentioned? For the percentage split? I think there might be a small error." She swallowed hard. "Based on the numbers you said, it should be 23.7%, not 27.3%. That's a difference of about $180,000 on a $5 million deal." The silence that followed felt like falling. Lisa watched Vincent's jaw tighten, saw one of the other men reach subtly inside his jacket. She'd just corrected a Mafia boss in front of his associates. She'd embarrassed him, challenged him. Every survival instinct she possessed was now screaming that she'd made a fatal mistake. Then Vincent did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone, tapped the calculator app, and ran the numbers himself. His eyebrows rose fractionally. "She's right," he said quietly. He looked up at Lisa with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What's your name?" "Lisa Martinez, sir." "Lisa Martinez." He repeated it slowly, as if committing it to memory. "Thank you for your attention to detail." She nodded, desperate to escape, and practically fled back to the kitchen. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped a tray of dishes. Carlos, the line cook, gave her a concerned look. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I think I just became one," she muttered. The rest of their meal passed without incident. Vincent and his associates ate, spoke in low tones, and eventually called for the check. Lisa brought it over, still keeping her eyes downcast. The tip he left was generous, $100 on a $200 DOS bill, but she'd have traded it in a heartbeat to erase the last hour. She was clearing their table when she found the note, tucked under a coffee cup, written in neat, precise handwriting on the back of a business card. "My office, 4 p.m. today. Don't be late. VC." Lisa's blood ran cold. This was it. This was how she disappeared. How many times had she read, Stories about people who crossed the wrong person and were never seen again. She thought of Emma, only 6 years old, already without a father. What would happen to her daughter if Lisa didn't come home? But not going seemed even more dangerous. You didn't ignore a summons from Vincent Caruso. At 3:45 p.m., Lisa stood outside a sleek office building in downtown Brooklyn, her heart hammering against her ribs. The address on the card led to the top floor. Executive offices with panoramic city views and furniture that cost more than she made in a year. Vincent's secretary, an elegant woman with kind eyes, smiled at her. "Ms. Martinez, Mr. Caruso is expecting you." "Go right in." The office was exactly what she'd imagined. Powerful, expensive, intimidating. Vincent stood by the window, his back to her, hands clasped behind him. "Sit," he said without turning around. Lisa sat, gripping the arms of the leather chair to keep her hands from shaking. When he finally turned to face her, his expression was thoughtful rather than angry. "Do you know why you're here? To fire me? Or worse?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. To her shock, he laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his entire face. "No, Lisa Martinez. You're here because you just saved me $180,000 and potentially saved me from looking like a fool in front of my business. Partners." He walked to his desk and sat down, studying her with those penetrating eyes. "Tell me about yourself. Your real story." Something in his tone made her honest. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the certainty that she had nothing left to lose. She told him about NYU, about her mathematics scholarship, about her father's sudden death from a heart attack when she was 19, about dropping out to care for her younger siblings, about meeting Marcus, Emma's father, who'd promised forever and delivered 2 years before a car accident took him too, about Emma's chronic asthma and the medical bills that buried her deeper every month. Vincent listened without interrupting, his fingers steepled under his chin. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "I'm going to make you an offer," he finally said. "I need someone I can trust with numbers, someone with integrity, someone who'll tell me the truth even when it's uncomfortable." He leaned forward. "I want you to work for me. As my personal financial analyst, the salary is $120,000 a year, plus full health benefits for you and your daughter." Lisa's mouth fell open. What? "I've built an empire on knowing who to trust," Vincent said. "Today you could have stayed silent. You could have let me make a costly mistake. Instead, you risked your safety to tell me the truth. That kind of integrity is rare. I value it. But I haven't finished my degree." "You don't need a degree to be brilliant with numbers. You need to be brilliant with numbers, which you clearly are." He slid a folder across the desk. "This is a contract. Take it home. Read it. Think about it." "But Lisa, I don't make offers like this twice." She opened the folder with trembling hands, scanning the terms. It was legitimate, legal, more money than she'd dreamed of earning. Healthcare that would cover Emma's treatments without the constant fear of bankruptcy. "Why?" she whispered. "Why me?" Vincent's expression softened in a way she suspected few people ever saw. "My father was a fisherman. We had nothing. When I was 10, a woman in our neighborhood corrected my mother's math at the grocery store, saved her from being overcharged by the store owner who thought immigrants were easy targets. That small act of courage, of speaking up when she could have stayed silent, that stuck with me." He paused. "You reminded me that character isn't about power or money. It's about doing the right thing even when it costs you something." Lisa felt tears burning in her eyes. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow. 9 a.m. And Lisa?" He stood, extending his hand. "Thank you for being brave enough to speak the truth." As she shook his hand, Lisa realized that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is also the right thing. And sometimes, just sometimes, courage is rewarded in ways you never imagined. That evening, she held Emma tight and whispered a prayer of gratitude for worn sneakers, aching feet, and the inability to let wrong numbers slide. For the strange, beautiful truth that kindness and integrity, even in the smallest moments, have the power to change everything. Vincent Caruso had built an empire on power and respect. But on this day, a waitress with nothing to gain and everything to lose had reminded him what truly mattered. And in return, he'd given her something priceless. Not just a job, but hope. The math, as it turned out, had finally added up to something greater than numbers. It had added up to a future worth believing in.